I'm going to talk about a condition that affects millions of people every year: insulin resistance. If you're someone who struggles with unexplained weight gain, high blood sugar levels, or just feeling tired, then this is the video for you. I'm going to break down everything you need to know about this condition. So sit back and let's get started. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on the channel, I help to educate, I help to empower and encourage you to take charge of your life and your health, avoid complications, and live the life you have always wanted, going to the next level. This is Diabetes Awareness Month, and today is actually World Diabetes Day. And so I have been in the process for this entire month of doing a series of videos walking through diabetes that I'm calling Diabetes 101. I guess that's what we're calling it right now. Okay, we may change that name, but Diabetes 101. And on the channel, you will find a playlist that has all the videos that we have done so far for the month. If you're catching us tonight, you know that last night we did a video and we went through this material, but there was no sound, right? So for those of you who watched, I think there were maybe 20 of you, or 16, 20 of you guys who watched it. And then I did get notification from one of you that, hey guys, there's no sound, right? So thank you for pointing that out to me. So I'm looking right now and I'm making sure that we do have sound. Yeah, it is. There it is. It looks like it's going up. If you're out there and you are hearing me, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, drop something in the comments so that we know, so that I know that you are hearing me. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So I see it. I see it there. All right. So insulin resistance. That's what we're talking about tonight. Let's hop over and let's take a look at, there you go. Okay. Yeah, insulin resistance, right? The complete guide to understanding insulin resistance is what we're talking about. And you saw there that I have a question mark, right? Because there is so much information that is out there. There are so many different versions, right, that I wanted to put together a concise, right, understanding of what insulin resistance is. Okay. And so if you follow this, and if you have not done so, go back, and we did a video a couple of days ago where we set the stage for what we're about to talk about. You should be able to get the gist of this, but looking at that video does help quite a bit. Okay. All right. So let's jump into it. So food, remember we talked about it. The goal of food is what? The goal of food is energy. And so any kind of food that you eat, all right, the body takes it, it breaks it down, and the ultimate thing is to get energy. And the other thing that it does is it also helps to repair and rebuild, right? So those are two functions: energy, and then to repair and to rebuild. So for instance, when you exercise, or even if you're going through the normal functions of your day, there are things in the body that need to be repaired. And so the body goes ahead and it does that. All right. So let's look at this diagram. So food comes in, it gets digested, broken down into the different parts, different components, and then that goes to energy, right? So food into the mouth, digestion, we get energy from it. And food comes in lots of different flavors, right? So proteins, fats, and carbs. But they still go to energy, right? So those are the components. The body takes proteins, breaks them down, and we'll look here in a minute to see some of the components that we get from the protein. So proteins, fats, carbs, a normal process, that digestion, those things get broken down into amino acids. So proteins get broken down to amino acids, fats get broken down into fatty acids, or free fatty acids, and glycerol. Right, free fatty acids and glycerol. And I don't have that on this slide, but I want you to think of, so glycerol, right? Glycerol, remember that. And then fatty acids. So if we take 3 fatty acids and we put it onto a piece of glycerol, that is called a triglyceride. You see that? That's where that comes from. That's where that term comes from. So triglycerides are simply the combination of 3 fatty acids and this glycerol thing that was created. Okay, and that's going to come back to for us later on. So in a normal process, and then the carbohydrates, right, complex carbohydrates are broken down into simple carbohydrates, ultimately into simple sugars. And the sugar that we're most interested in is glucose, right? Glucose, right, is the one. So food comes in, 3 different types of macronutrients. We're not talking about micronutrients here. So macronutrients, they get broken down, amino acids, free fatty acids, and glycerol, which is going to be triglycerides, and then glucose. Now, you see the door there. And we've said that in the body, we have all these cells, and the cells need to get the stuff we eat into the cell so that they can produce energy. So there's a door, and we're using the door as the analogy. There's a door to the cell, and the door has to be opened for us to be able to get the information in, or get the stuff in that we just ate, that we just digested, okay? And the thing that does that is this guy called insulin, right? You remember that? So insulin is the key that opens the door. Insulin is the key that opens the door to allow the components of the food that we eat into the cell, so that the cell can then take it and create energy, right? You see there at the top, energy is what we're looking for, okay? Energy is what we're looking for. I see somebody that gives me a thumbs up, so thank you. I'm assuming that is that you can hear me, right? So energy, right? The cell opens, the door opens because of the insulin, which is the key, and then all the stuff comes in and we can create energy. That's the top part. So if there's no insulin, the door is closed. If there's insulin, the door opens. No insulin, it's closed. And if it's insulin there, then it opens, right? Now, the other thing that happens, so we eat food. Now, if we go back to that hamburger that we ate, right? When we eat the hamburger, when we eat the sandwich, when we eat whatever it is that we're eating, and the reason I chose a hamburger, by the way, because it's got protein, fats, and carbs in it, right? I could have chosen something else. I could have chosen a piece of bread, which didn't have all the things that we want to talk about. Okay, so when we eat, we don't just eat for a little bit of energy. So let's think about that for a second. So the body needs energy, and when we eat food, it takes the energy, it takes the food, converts it to energy, and it uses that energy for functions that the body needs. Like right now, right? I'm thinking, I'm speaking, my eyes are blinking, my mouth is moving, my heart is going, my lungs are going, right? My GI tract is going, right? My stomach is going. I just drank something, right? I'm moving my hands because I'm a hand talker, right? So all the things that are going on right now in my body all those things needs energy. All of them. So when I eat, the energy that goes from or comes from the food immediately is for the stuff I need right now. It's kind of like, and I gave the example of going to the grocery store. You're getting ready to prepare a meal, and you go to the grocery store and you get the ingredients for the meal. But a lot of times when we go to the grocery store, we don't just buy the stuff for that meal, right? We buy some extra stuff, some more stuff. We go shopping. We get home and we cook the stuff for the meal that we're about to eat, the immediate things. What do we do with the rest of it? We take it and we put it in the pantry, in the refrigerator, in the freezer, in the cabinets. Okay? So that's what the body does. When we eat food, it converts it to energy, and it uses what it needs right now for the functions of the body. And any excess that it has, it stores it away. And once again, the thing that helps to store it away, the thing that tells the body to store it away is, guess what? That's right. Insulin is what tells the body to store it away. Right? So the insulin tells the body, hey, I've got excess. I got more energy than I need. So you can go ahead and put those away. Okay. And so the body goes about and it tries to put it away. And the places that it goes to the liver, it goes to muscle. All right. And if those places become full, then it has to store it somewhere else. Okay. And the place that it stores it is in fat cells. Let's go through that again. So we eat food, it gets broken down. There's insulin around. The door opens, all of the components go into the cell. We get energy from it. And if there's excess, then the body stores it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a little while. Okay? Makes sense so far? All right. So there are times when it is possible that we have insulin on board, but the door to the cell does not open, or does not open enough because something is going on. Okay, let's walk through those together. This is an abnormal process, So let's assume, right, the simple version is that the door doesn't open. Right, so we've got insulin on board, we've got insulin in the body, and the door doesn't open for some reason. Okay, so that's first one. Number two, the door opens, but it doesn't open all the way. So all the stuff, all the glucose that's in the blood that needs to get into the cell, some of it gets in, but not all of it that needs to get in. Okay, that's number two. One, the door didn't open at all. Number two, it opens, but not enough. And the third idea is that, remember, there are millions of cells in the body. Millions of cells in the body. And so I'm going to use a small number just so for discussion. Let's say there are 100 doors and there are only 60 pieces of insulin, right? So those keys that open the door. So we've got 100 doors, we got 60 insulin, and so the 60 open the doors that it can, but then we've got 40 that are left that are closed. So once again, all the sugar, all the glucose that's in the blood can't get into the cell because for some reason is inadequate. Either we can't open all the doors don't open all the way, or the doors don't open at all. And when that happens, remember what insulin's job is, right? Because the body is going to try to make more insulin to compensate. So let's take the case where we have 100 doors and only 60 are open. Well, the body says, hey, wait a minute. I've got 100 doors, only 60 are open, so I need to make more keys, right? So the body ramps up its production of keys. But when it does that, it overshoots. So it doesn't know that it's only supposed to make 40. So it makes 60, 80, 70, right? Some more than you need. And so the excess insulin now causes a problem. Does that make sense? Right? I hope so, right? So the excess, the overage, the insulin that we made above and beyond what we have, what we need, that causes a problem. Because what does insulin do? One of the things insulin does is insulin is responsible for storing energy. So there's all this glucose that's hanging around. And the insulin sees it and say, wait a minute. I don't need all this out here. So what does it do? Right? It can't get into the cell. So it sends it back to the liver. And in the liver, it starts to make something. It starts to make fats, because that's going to be a storage form. Because remember we said we shuttle it to the fat cells? So the insulin takes the excess sugar that's hanging around because it can't get into the cell, sends it back to the liver starts to make fats. Ultimately, those things are going to be called triglycerides, right? Free fatty acids, triglycerides. So when we start making all this fat in the liver, what do you think that causes? It causes a fatty liver, right? So excess sugar, when there's not insulin around, enough insulin to get into the cell, goes back to the liver and we get fatty liver. Yeah. And when the liver can't tolerate, it doesn't have enough room to store anymore, then it comes out of the liver and it goes to the fat cells, and that is called what? Weight gain. You see what just happened? So too much sugar can't get into the cell, goes back to the liver to go into a storage form, which is called fat, So fatty liver, and then it comes out of the liver because the liver can't hold anymore, and it goes to the fat cells and we get weight gain. How does it get to the cells, the fat cells? It's got to go through the blood, right? And as it goes through the blood, do you think it all goes through the blood like normally? No, it bumps into the wall and it gets, some of it gets stuck. And that's called what? Right? That's called getting to heart disease. So excess insulin or excess sugar to the liver, fatty liver, to the fat cells, weight gain. On its way to the fat cells through the blood, heart disease. Yeah. And then we've got all this insulin now, right? Because remember, we got all this insulin that's around. And we've already talked about, and we'll come to talk a little bit more. We've already talked about the fact that the insulin is not functioning well, right? We'll talk about why that is here in a minute. Because I know you're asking, well, if we got all this insulin, why doesn't the insulin just put the sugar in the cell where it's supposed to go in the first place? Well, it can't, because there are lots of other things, right? I'll show you a slide here in a minute. But we got fatty liver so far. We've got weight gain. We've got heart disease, predisposes to heart disease. Yeah. And what else? Well, this abnormal insulin starts to affect other things. One of the things it affects is the regulation of the menstrual cycle. And what's that called? It's called polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. All right, we'll come to a slide here in a minute. So far, we've got 4 things: fatty liver, weight gain, heart disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And all the while, we are getting more and more into or heading towards diabetes, right? So we haven't gotten there yet. This is just the pre-diabetes, and also sometimes pre-diabetes, right? All because we're not able to get the sugar into the cell. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our slides. All right. So I hope that's making sense to you. I hope that makes sense to you. All right. So I'm gonna pop back here and let's go through these 2 again. So remember, the door is closed. Get this one right. So door is closed. Doors open. Doors closed. Doors open. And all of that is because of insulin. Okay. So if we get excess, the door's closed. Now you're asking the question, right? Rightly so, is why doesn't insulin just do what it's supposed to do in the first place? And this one, guys and gals, right now there are probably some people in a room somewhere arguing about this point. There are papers, there are symposiums, there are books, there are videos that talk about this one. Because despite all that we know, we still don't quite understand it. So let's go through some of the theories. So number 1, you can think of a key and a lock, right? Key and a lock. The key is supposed to go into the lock. First of all, maybe the key broke in the lock. Right? Have you ever had, that's never happened to me, but right, I know people that's happened to. Right? For some reason, the key, they put it in the lock, is the right key and it's the right lock, but when they put it in, it broke. So guess what? You can't open that door anymore. Now, this one has happened to me, which is right next to it, right? The key becomes deformed for some reason. Now, I remember, I forgot, there was something wrong with the lock in the first place. So every time you put the key in, you had to kind of wiggle it. Have you ever had that? And the more I wiggled it, the more the key got a little bent, to the point where at some point it didn't open the door anymore. It was a little bent, or the ridges or the teeth that are supposed to go into the tumblers, right? They got worn down. Have you ever had that where your key stopped working? Right? So the key was deformed. Or there's something wrong with the lock itself. Right? For some reason, it doesn't work. Or the key broke. It's not in the lock. It just, something happened to it. And then one big idea is, well, maybe you have the right lock, but you've got different keys and you haven't found the key that fit. And then another theory is this, and it's not up on the screen. Maybe there's something that got into the keyhole that's blocking the keyhole so the key can't get in there. Yeah, that's a big one. Right? So somebody, I'm going to use a silly example. Somebody came along, some little kid or some person, doesn't have to be a kid. Sorry, kids. You guys get blamed for everything, right? Somebody came along and they put some clay in the keyhole, or they put some wax in the keyhole. So now you can't get the key into the door, into the hole. Right? So all those are theories. Now we're going to come back and we're going to give some data for some of those. Not today, not in this show, but we're continuing the process. Okay? So these are reasons why the key is not functioning. Now, big idea is that, we've been talking as though there's like one cell that has one door. Right? But we've got millions of cells in the body. And all of those cells have keyholes. And all of those cells need keys to be able to open so that sugar, nutrients get in there, and then we can produce energy. So every cell in the body, if it cannot get the energy it needs, right, starts to have problem. So that's why sometimes in diabetes, you'll see patients who have dry skin because the skin cells don't have energy. So they're dying. Or people will have brittle hair because the hair cells don't have energy, so they're dying. And people have brittle nails because the nail cells don't have energy, so they're dying. Women can lose their menstrual cycles, right? Because the endometrial lining can no longer proliferate. Men have decreased sperm counts because it doesn't have energy to produce it. Right? You see what begins to happen? So all of those tissues in the body that require energy can have problems. How about this guy up here, this brain, right? You ever heard of anybody who has foggy thinking? Why? No energy, right? So there's all this sugar floating around the body, but it can't get into the body, into the cells to do what it's supposed to do. And then we've talked about some of the complications so far, but let me put this slide up on the screen. So we've got these fat cells, right? These fatty tissue, right? This, not tissue, but this free fatty acids that are being produced. Well, they get stored in the liver. The liver gets full. They're in muscle. So the muscle gets full. So we got fatty liver. And here's one that we didn't talk about. What happens when fat gets into muscle? Muscle aches and pains. Yeah. And then here is, this is a kicker. This is like kicking you in the butt, right? So the triglycerides, those same fats that have to be go somewhere, they can get deposited into the pancreas. What's in the pancreas? Well, the beta cells that are supposed to be producing the insulin. Well, if triglycerides are getting stored in there, then they're damaging the beta cells. So those same cells that are supposed to be making insulin, they begin not making insulin, right? Because they're being damaged. Right? You see what happened? You see the circle? So the very thing that's supposed to be helping is producing a problem, and now it's coming back to damage the cells that are supposed to be producing the insulin. Right? It's insidious. Right? It's that cycle that we go down. And then, of course, we mentioned all of these guys: polycystic ovarian syndrome, fatty liver, obesity, heart disease. And I put diabetes there, but we haven't even gotten to diabetes yet, right? We're having the discussion of insulin resistance. We're not at diabetes yet. But ultimately, that's where we end up. Yeah. Those are significant issues that people that are dealing with. And not only that, but insulin makes you hungry. Did I say that before? I don't think I said that. Not in this series, but we said it on this channel before. Insulin makes you hungry. So there are all these things now, right? So it is not a benign thing. People say, oh, I'm just insulin resistant. Well, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. All right. Well, I hope that sets the stage and you understand a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more before we end this segment. But right now we are going to go to, if I get it set up, we're going to go to our amazing question wheel. Let's go right there now. All right. Welcome. So our amazing question wheel. So you'll see on the screen, there is a wheel that's there, the question wheel, that has questions on it. So I'm going to spin the wheel and whatever question it lands on, I'm going to answer. I'm going to give you a concise, usable, practical piece of data or an explanation that you can have, right? So now you know. So as we go through the series, right, we create one of these, we answer one of these questions each time. So now you're putting together a glossary of answers to different questions dealing with diabetes. Okay, so that's what you should be doing, right? Each of these little ones that I do, that's a little piece of information, that data you can do, and you can bookmark it. You can on your YouTube account, right? Go ahead and star it, remember it. I think it says save, right? So that you can always go back and you can, hell, I remember Dr. Witt answered that question. Okay. Now, here's the caveat. Here's the thing. So I've got to do that, but I've got to do it in 45 seconds. Yeah, that's the thing. I've got to do it in 45 seconds. Then after the show, I'm going to clip that piece out, right? The 45 seconds that I've done, and I'm going to create a video that I'm going to then post on all of our social media platforms. And let me pop over here so you can see that is our social media handle down at the bottom, Dwayne Wood MD, Dwayne Wood MD. You can find us there on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. What else? Yeah, all of those places, right? You can find us. That's Dwayne Wood MD. Okay. And when you find it, I want you to go to it and I want you to put hashtag I was there. Hashtag I was there. Let me put that in the comments here so that everybody, let's see, hashtag I was there. Did I spell it right? I think so. Hashtag I was there. Okay. And then I'm going to pop it up on the screen. There you go. Hashtag I was there. Okay. So that's what I want you to do when you find the video. Right. And go look for it, please. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and let's spin the wheel. Enough talking, right? I know. All right. Here we go. Round and round it goes. Where to stop? I don't know. Let's see. What do we got? What do we have? What do we have? It says, can a child outgrow type 1 diabetes? Can a child outgrow type 1 diabetes? I think not a minute, but a little while to get my thoughts. And let's go and let's get 45 seconds on the clock. And we're going to answer this question. Okay, here we go. 45 seconds. So can a child outgrow type 1 diabetes? Well, type 1 diabetes is a deficiency in insulin. In fact, it is a deficiency where there's no insulin being produced. The beta cells can no longer produce insulin. Now, some children, when they are first diagnosed, go through what's called the honeymoon period, which is about a year after they're diagnosed. They all of a sudden don't need to use insulin, but ultimately they go back on insulin. So they cannot outgrow type 1 diabetes. All right, let's see. Did I get it? So I think I had, I think I had like 7 seconds or something like that left, right? Yeah. There was more I wanted to, did you see that? I wanted to say more, but I was like, no. I got to get 45 seconds, 45 seconds. Okay. All right. I'm having too much fun with this. I hope you're having fun with this. I like it. I like that part of it. All right. So insulin resistance is a growing problem, but there are steps we can take to reverse it and prevent the progression to diabetes. The first is to get educated. And that's what you're doing here on this channel. So I'm glad that you're here for this episode. I hope you have gone back and watched the previous episode, and you're coming back to watch the rest. This entire month, we're doing Diabetes 101 is what I'm calling it right now, for Diabetes Awareness Month. And we are taking a walk through different discussions dealing with diabetes, right? We've got some exciting ones coming up, some things that I know you're going to want to know about medication and treatment. And we're doing this so that when we're done, there's going to be a usable set of videos that you can go and watch. You could send to your family, to your friends. If you're at a church, if you're in a community center, if you, even if you're a physician out there, by the way, right? So guys, colleagues of mine, if you have someone who you just need them to get some good information about diabetes, this is what you want to send them. Send them this playlist, send them this channel and say, hey, here's Dr. Wood. I know he's doing a good job of explaining, right? Because what do we do here on the channel? We educate, I empower, and I encourage. What do we want to do? Take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. It is World Diabetes Day today. Almost 500 million people on the planet with diabetes. Take a moment, go to worlddiabetesday.org or diabetes.org, and there you find information about how you can contact your health ministers, your health policy holders, to let them know that we need more education and more resources for our folks who have diabetes. So that's the push for the World Diabetes Day. In general, the push is, how do we prevent diabetes? How do we treat it? How do we live a long, healthy, fulfilling life? Glad that you're here. If you've not subscribed already, go ahead and do so. You've got to create an account. It's free. Subscribe in the account, hit the notification bell so that you'll be alerted when we put new things up. If you know someone who needs help, go ahead and help them to subscribe. If you're liking this video and videos that we're doing, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and share it with your family and with your friends. All the things that we ask to do for the channel, right? Liking, subscribing, logging in, sharing, that lets other people around know that we're here, okay? Because I heard somebody say, being the best kept secret is no fun. That's not a good thing, right? So we don't want to be the best kept secret, right? We want to be able to influence. We want to be able to affect. We want to be able to share this good information with the community as a whole, right? At large. Let me say that. So that's what we want. We also want the YouTube folks, the algorithms, and all the social media people to know that this is valuable content. So they begin putting it more and more in front of other people, right? Because if we're just here, that's all we get, right? But that's all we get to influence. But when they start seeing that other people are watching, they put it out to other. And I don't know what's going on right now, right? But that's what we want you to do. So subscribe, like, follow, and all those things. I'm going to do a special video. I don't know if tomorrow or the next day, with some exciting news that's happened to us in general, right? As we're growing over the last couple of months, and you guys have had a big part to play in that. All right, so that's it. I've done enough talking, like I said, and I enjoy just hanging out with you guys. I enjoy being here, enjoy doing what I do. So come on back for the next video. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And on the channel, I help to educate, empower, and encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, go to the next level, and live the life you've always wanted. Come on back. We'll see you at the next video, the next episode. Good night.